So, McFarlane decides $40 action figures. End of the world? End of affordable figures? Bad business decision? Corporate greed? Sometimes toys simply cost different costs. Priced out of the hobby. Let's talk about this. So, I know everybody's already talking about this. There's no real reason for me to necessarily jump in and be like, well, here's the story, guys. But here's the story, guys. A new wave was released at McFarlane Toys, and this wave is $40. Now, I am one of those people that constantly comes on here, and you could almost call me apologetic, because I'm one of those people that constantly says, yeah, it's worth what we're willing to pay for it, right? I bought those Fantastic Four. I told you I was willing to pay, in all honesty, $40 to $50 for the thing alone. Did I get a crazy deal? Yes. Did that help me buy it? Yes. But what I'm saying is oftentimes we will justify the prices we spent. I am a backer for Eternia. I paid that price, and a lot of collectors were mad at people like me who paid that price and were claiming, you're the reason it's not going to go retail because you prove that they can do it this way. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I'm not going to argue that. Chances are that me making the decision to pay this kind of money makes it so that they can say, he'll pay that money. Okay. I won't argue that. I will not argue that. I will argue if this is actually worth the price value. And I'm going to do that the same way that I've always done that. Trying my best to look at it unobjectively. I'm going to try. Let's get this part out of the way, though. I do not really collect McFarlane toys. Not really. And I've had my problems with them here and there. So maybe there is a little bit of bias before we even go into this. I've bought a Wonder Woman from it that I did not like. A Catwoman from it that I thought was pretty cool, but I wish she had better articulation and posing. I bought one of the best Batmans I've ever owned in my entire life, but he also comes with the same stipulation. I wish his cape was a little different, and I wish he had better articulation. I bought a Green Lantern from this wave. I bought a Black Lantern Batman from this wave. A couple of different things here and there. And I bought a Robin from this wave. And I bought the 4 Vox Machina figures from this toy line in general. You could say that Vox Machina doesn't count, but they're built the exact same way as DC Direct or DC Multiverse or whatever. So I'm going to argue they count. They're the exact same style figures. And that style of figures is worth $20. Base. If you buy just a figure, and it is not part of a Build-A-Figure wave, but it is just a figure, these McFarlane toys for the last couple years have been worth $20. That makes them an easy pickup for the common variety collector. And I'm not crapping on anybody that buys this line and being like, you guys are, what's that term everybody likes to use? Normies, casuals, whatever. That's bogus. Nobody is better than you because they collect different than you. They just collect different than you. We all have our different entry points and different values that we're willing to justify and spend. That's the way this is. But, on a personal note, these figures, when you just buy the figures, they come with maybe one extra head, an accessory, maybe a weapon or something, maybe different hands. That's a base value figure. It's worth $20 in this current line. If it's part of a collector's pack, a Build-A-Figure, that is a $24 line, because technically what they do is they sell 4 or 5 figures, and you're basically paying for the extra $20 figure by buying the 4 with an extra $5 tagged on to every single one of the ones you buy. The Atrocitus Wave proves my point right there. You want to buy the Atrocitus Wave? Sometimes these are big things. Sometimes you get a giant horse, you pay for the entire wave, yada, yada, yada. It feels like you got a really good deal. Most of the time, I don't like Build-A-Figure waves because you're already paying for what you're paying for anyway. And because of that, sometimes I feel like just release the horse and I'll buy it. Just release the giant Colossus and I'll buy it. Just release the Juggernaut and I'll buy it. I get that you have to sell as much product as you can, and that's the way waves work. And you want to make sure that you could try to sell everything in the wave. But I only have so much shelf space, and I don't care about half the characters you're selling in each wave, so I never finish the wave and I never get the special thing. There are very few Build-A-Figures that I will invest in. I want the Super Scroll, I'm going to buy that line. I want Atrocitus, I bought that line. That's on the way right now, I have half of it. I'm waiting till I get the whole thing to do like a wave video. So like things like that. There are certain things that I will go out of my way and I will say the entire line is good and I want the Build-A-Figure that comes with the line. Most of the time, this is not true. So for me, this is an extra added expense that I'm not happy with to begin with. That puts us on this part right here. The McFarlane line of toys is a $20 base value toy. And this one that they have released, to me, looks like a $25 figure. Let's check this out. And there they were right there, actually, so that's funny. Let's go back to, because right now we're going to go to the DC Multiverse. That's these figures right here. That's 4 figures, this guy being the main figure. These are all cool and everything, but it's not what we're looking for here. That's really cool, actually. Okay. This is the Build-A-Figure. These are the 4 figures. So we have Superman right here. My internet's moving slow. Okay, here's Superman right here. This is not for me. Just going to go ahead and put that one out there right now. This is not a Superman that I would personally buy. I've only seen one Superman so far in this entire line of figures that I would buy. One. That's it. And that Superman in general, by the way, was the issue 1000 Superman or whatever. That one that this line did, I would have bought that Superman. I haven't seen another Superman yet in the line that I would buy that's comic book variant Superman that would make me feel like I did something right. I don't like this body cut right here. I think it's too hard. I'm not a big fan of the way that the legs tend to work on a lot of these figures. I'm not a big fan of the McFarlane line figures, but I will let a lot of their faults slide because on a personal note, this is a $20 figure. It is. This is a $25 figure, period. Oh, and this gold label thing that they like, where they're like, yeah, but that's a gold label. It's a special edition. It's worth more. It's a $30 figure or whatever. That's also, I'm going to call BS. That also is a $20 figure because there's nothing different from that figure and the other figures except for a change in the paint job. Maybe it's Jokerized or whatever. And if you're into that, I'm not calling you out for that. That's cool. You got a figure that you liked, and I'm happy for you. I really am. I try to stress that all the time. The way I collect is not the way you collect, and I don't expect it to be. We're gonna all be into different things, and different things are gonna speak to us. My shelf is not your shelf. But if you increase the price of something on a personal level, on a fair business personal level, that has to come from somewhere. The value. I have to see the value. Right now, get rid of these arms. He's a $20 figure. There's nothing on this guy that makes me believe he's worth more than the base $20 value of these kinds of figures. Superman. Cape. some people have been trying to argue that the cape justifies the money. First off, I'm going to tell you it doesn't. I don't care that it's a wired cape. It doesn't. It does not justify the increase. Case in point, by the way, let me go back here. Spectre has a cape. Now, are you going to tell me that the Spectre in all his glory, and he is cool, is worth more money housing the same kinds of capes we've seen in every other figure? Batman Hush, that cape. I mean, it's not exact, but what I'm getting at is this is the exact kind of effect that we see on, like, Batman Hush. It's the same kind of cape we've been seeing in the entire line. It doesn't justify extra money. A gold label, I've argued, doesn't justify extra money on the main value. It simply doesn't. I don't see it. This figure is $40. When the gold label stuff came out, I saw a couple that I wanted. But I said to myself, if I run into it in the wild, because they're already jacking the price up by calling it gold label, and that's, on a personal level, that ain't right to begin with. Then, because, like, look at this. You're going to tell me this Superman right here, Superboy right here, Superboy Prime, that's a regular figure. You can get him for $20. In fact, right now, I know he is currently at a third-hand store, Mega Replay. It's just a store that I go to. It's down here. I don't know if it's like a chain. I don't think it is. I think it's a place that's just down around here. But that place, okay, when I go there and I see that Superboy on the shelf, they're only asking like $14 for him because he's a $20 figure. And then you're going to go to Gold Label, right? And he's going to cost more? I don't know how much more. In fact, I wonder if I could answer that question right now. So aside from a bunch of people trying to sell him for $75 and things of that nature, the lowest price value that I seem to come across over and over and over again is $30. But this is where I'm getting at. $30 for him. And you're going to justify that and say, well, it's gold label, blah, 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 this and that, different paint. It's less paint. It's less paint than the work that had to be put into him, and he's $20. So you see where I'm coming from with this. These are $20 figures. I know I went the long way to prove it, but even the gold label figures we justify it because it's a little cooler than the other figures or whatever. We're getting something special, makes us feel a little special, we'll pay a little bit more. And we'll justify it because it's not really that big of an increase for a character we want. Gold label, you know what? That's fine. $40, though, because he has a wire cape. $40 because he is on the exact same bodies that we've seen over and over and over again. Not these guys necessarily, but we've seen this body used over and 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 over, including that head, I'm sure. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that head has already been used. I don't know that for sure. I'd have to look through the line. But, I mean, these bodies are awfully standard. In fact, that body and that body, they're the same body. So when I look at this, I don't see it. I don't see the price value at 40. I could see it at 25, 25, 25, 25. And if you want to argue gold label, I guess 30, 30, 30, 30. And maybe if you wanted to get even crazier, 35, 35, 35, 35, because they're gold label Build-A-Figures. Whatever. I still don't see it. But I see it. You get the idea. And I guess this guy is cool. He would be cool to have. And he has a fancy cape. He has a cloth cape, which is not common in the line. And it's fine. But $40? So here's an issue, and this is the real issue that I'm seeing here. And I'm seeing this, I personally, this is the way I'm seeing it. I don't think these are worth $40. I think these are $20 figures, which are put in $25 figure ratios because they're Build-A-Figures. And because they have gold label, that still doesn't actually justify their price and never has justified their price in the history of the line. It's just that we're willing to pay it. That's it. It's not a justification for the actual price value of the gold figures. It's just that we're willing to pay it because they put a little gold label on it. Remove that gold label, stand him next to any other figure, and then, like, I personally have never seen the justification for the extra money to make it a $30 figure instead of a $20 figure. These are $20 figures. And as such, as $20 figures, I look at them and I just can't help but see this $40 price tag and then see the justifications, which it's limited, it's exclusive. It's limited because you imposed the limitation on yourself, first off. A second, it's exclusive because you imposed the exclusivity on yourself. You mean to tell me that you don't think this line would have sold at retail? That it had to be limited? I argue it's a Superman. I argue it's a Crisis on Infinite Earths. I argue it's Psycho Pirate. I argue that enough people knowing that storyline would have been interested enough to put the money down at $20 or $25 a figure to make your return investment. These are not worth, honestly, $40 a piece. Now, I know I just spent a long time saying these are not worth $40. So now the next question comes with what a lot of people are worried about. Is this a test the waters scenario? Is this a test the waters scenario that is encompassing the idea that if he gets away with this, these will be $40 figures from this point forward? I hope not. Because if it is, I know it will price me out of these figures. Beyond the shadow of a doubt. There's no way. There's no way at all. No. I have plenty of Masterverse and other cool things that I would turn my attention to. This is a competition. It is a business. It is a competitive business. Toys are more competitive now than they have ever been in the time that I have ever seen toys. Ever. All these new third-party companies and whatnot that are coming up, all these independent toy makers that are coming up, all the mainline toys that are coming up, and all these different choices that you have, all in different price ranges, and all of them doing the same properties. I mean, look at how many different times you can get, say, the Fantastic Four. How many different options there are. Think of all the different people that are currently doing just different waves, right? Think about things like Dragon Ball Z. There's like 3 or 4 choices for Dragon Ball Z figures. All at different price point values. And you could argue different qualities. In fact, you would argue different qualities. And at some point, if you saw, say, Dragon Star or whatever, if they went too high in price value, you would eventually say, if I'm already going to be paying it, why don't I just buy the fig arts? Aren't they considered to be the golden standard until somebody dethrones them, you would argue? At this point, with that Superman being what he is and costing $40 for a Superman that, on a personal level, is not a very impressive Superman to begin with, wouldn't you argue that at some point you're already spending this much money, why not take the extra $10 or $20 and go with something else. Go with Mafex or something of that nature. There are a lot of options out there right now for figures and a lot of different things that you can collect. Different lines, different ideas, different values, different stuff. And if we're nearing a point where a standard figure is $40, a standard Build-A-Figure is $40, a standard Build-A-Figure gold label is $40, when's the next deluxe going to hit us? That if $40 would become a standard, that the deluxe would end up being $60 or $70. At that point, and especially at this quality, without justification of increasing the quality of the build, is it worth that money? No. These are $20 figures. At their base value, at their absolute base value, they're $20 to $25 fully justified. If they're going up past that and their quality does not increase to match, then what are we doing here? I mean, you could save $40 twice. This is personal, but instead of buying 2 figures from McFarlane at $80, you could get the Frazetta Girls Fire and Ice Dark Wolf for like $80, $100. Skip 2 figures that are $20 value figures, and you buy a massively cool, extremely articulated, very detailed, super cool figure that really blows all of them right out of the water. A personal level, personal preference. Everything's personal preference. But this line, I'm already watching it. The Spectre already sold out, and I think the others, I don't know how close they're getting, but the Spectre sold out fast. And you could say, hey, that's a character that a lot of people have wanted for a long time, so that could be the very reason that it sold out. But if these sell like crazy and the entire wave sells out and it becomes a standard that, this is possible, we sold out, and it becomes a standard, that could hurt McFarlane bad, because I honestly don't believe these toys hold the value to survive $40 price points. I don't see the price value on a personal note. And if you're a fan of the line, then you could easily justify it because these are figures you like and they all match the other figures you've gotten, and you're way in at this point and you've bought a lot of figures and you're at a point where there's no reason to step back and go, well, I'm not going to do that because I've already bought 100 of these. Well, at that point, you're pretty much put in. This is your line. It's the thing you collect, and you're willing to see past the faults of it here and there. But you don't maintain the line. The line has to stay competitive, or it will die. So we have to be careful about what we justify, says the guy that bought Eternia. I'm willing to point out my own hypocrisy, okay? I'm willing to do it because we're all collectors and we all know we do this crap. On a personal note, these are not worth $40. And the McFarlane line, the DC Multiverse McFarlane Toys line, cannot survive a $40 price point value per figure. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens, won't we? Whatever opinions you have, section below all the time. It's always open to you. I try to respond to as much of it as I can. I'm going to get out of here.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.